Hello, I am Brad Herman, Superintendent of Lucas Local Schools. We are here to share some factual information regarding the bond issue on the ballot this November. The bond issue is a property tax initiative to fund the construction of a new K-12 school building for our district. This will be a 12 mil bond issue for a period of 37 years. As we get started, I'd like to introduce our team of professionals presenting with us today. With us today are, of course, myself, Superintendent, our financial advisor to the district, David Conley with Rockmill Financial, our planning and design representatives from Garmin Miller, Monica Bruaw, and Doug Rentz. Next, Doug's going to share a brief information about Garmin Miller.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, Garmin Miller is a planning and design firm established in 1993 in Minster, Ohio. We also have a location in Columbus as well as Indianapolis. And our goal is to work with your district and committees to get the best plan possible for Lucas. And we'll hear about that plan here today. We are a multi-service firm, meaning the architecture, engineering, site design, technology, planning, all under one roof. And we have over 60 team members in those 3 locations. And I'll kick it back over to Brad to touch on the mission.
All right, thank you, Doug. The mission at Lucas Local School District is to provide high-quality educational opportunities that promote academic preparedness and productive citizenship. While talking about our mission, I think it's important to take a look at the history of our schools. As you're well aware, we have 3 school buildings in our district: the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. The high school is our oldest building, being originally built in 1918 with the first phase, and seeing additions in 1938 and 1958 for a total of just under 44,000 square feet. The next oldest building, being our elementary school, was originally constructed in 1956, seeing an addition done in 1963 for a total square footage of, again, just under 27,000 square feet. The newest building of our 3 is our middle school, which was completed in 1979 and has just under 30,000 total square feet. Next, Monica is going to share some more information about what led up to the point of this bond issue being placed on the ballot.
Great, thanks, Brad. So as Brad mentioned, the school district, the high school is the oldest building, and in 2005, the school district applied for the Exceptional Needs Program application, which is through the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. And the purpose of the EMP program is to identify facilities that are in most need of replacement. It's an application process, and the district was admitted to the program. And the solution that was found for the district was a new PK-12 facility at the time. It would take care of the whole population. The district did not go on the ballot. And over the course of some years, did some improvements on their own, but in 2018 decided to look for architects to help with some facility improvements. The purpose, again, was twofold for that: identify the district's educational program and facilities and physical facilities in detail, and then to define a capital improvement program. Garmin Miller was hired in November of 2018. When we were hired and selected, the first thing we did was to have a team of architects and engineers walk through the facility to get an idea of the conditions, looking at a bunch of different points: the roof, the HVAC system, the plumbing system, electrical systems, all of those systems, to identify what needed to be replaced and what could be renovated. The next slide shows that there were 2 parts of that process. One was this long-term cost assessment, looking at the long-term utilization of the building, where we looked for the full renovation and identified items that met code and or needed to be repaired to meet code. And then we also looked at that near-term piece, that the repairs and replacement that needed to take place within the next 3 to 5 years, and apply a budget or cost to that. So what resulted from that were some items that the district took care of, some renovations. But just recently, these are some pictures from recently that show some items that still need to take place. So some tuck pointing that was fixed and is still needing to be fixed as well as some deterioration of brick. These pictures of plumbing fixtures show that these are original to the building. And so we know that there's some galvanized piping that is causing some low flow due to some corrosion buildup in there. The next slide shows some, as the district is needing to, educate the students, they're adding in a room partition to divide up spaces to meet the needs that they have for maybe special education or gifted programs with just, one light switch that's going to fix or to accommodate both rooms. The next slide shows example chemistry lab. So it shows some outdated fixtures and equipment, gives you a feel for, the wood floors and the spaces that are being used to educate the students. So all of that, when we look at that, the total cost for in 2019, when we originally did this assessment, was $25 million. For that includes the long-term and short-term. And over the course of 3 years, there was inflation that was applied to this through OFCC for construction costs, 16%, 5%, and then 17%. And then when we look at to compare things, apples to apples in today's dollars, that would total $36.3 million to renovate all 3 buildings. In 2019, the school district said, wait a second, that's a lot of money. So what's the best use of the taxpayers' money? And they put a call out to the community to form a task force. So several community members stepped up and met for probably a good portion of almost 2 years, where they discussed the renovations and replacement options. They looked at the different sites on the west side and east side. We met to talk about a program of requirements, what actually needs to fit into a building. And then there were conversations with OFCC to see what the potential is to get re-engaged with OFCC. 3 options surfaced. So as I mentioned, the renovation of all 3 buildings, keep what you have and fix it, is $36.3 million. We talked about an option, and I'll show you that plan of adding on to the middle school or having a high school for that, a new high school and add on to the middle school, and then renovate the elementary school. That's $31.8 million. And then a new K-12 facility would be $30.1 million as a local share. So those were the 3 options that came to light. And we'll talk about that a little bit in detail. One of the first things that the task force felt that was necessary was a property survey on that new parcel, North Road, I'm sorry. And so it shows that there's some 4 cross sections that were studied. It would cost about $1.1 million to grade and get the fill required. As you know, it's pretty steep, so there's a lot of contour lines that need to be crossed, and so some of those utility runs can be expensive. So it's important to know what you're dealing with and know the costs related to that. So was one of the first things that was done, was a property survey. As I mentioned, an option was to look at an 812 building. So that would be 46,000 square feet. How it can be nestled in close to the middle school. The existing high school would become practice field. We'd have a parking lot. So we had our landscape designers or site designers work through, what that could look like on your property. So that was an option here. The next slide shows a different option where we're actually connecting to the middle school. Certainly there are some pros and cons. We are moving land in this, so there really is some costs associated with that as well. But when you think about a long-term solution, that was really not really where the task force wanted to go with these options. The next slide really goes into that new K-12 option. As again, with OFCC getting involved, they renovating the elementary school and adding just a high school to the middle school would not be OFCC would not participate with those. So they would participate with a new school option. So that's really where we look at the next slides and wanted to see if that's a possibility. Here we show the West Site concept plan, which is really putting in the K-12 where you have your existing buildings, how you could have the cars stack up, where the service drive would be, where the bus loop would be. It's really a long, narrow solution to fit into your existing property. We thought, well, since you have the property across the street and we did the property survey, can we fit in a building and what that site would look like if we put a building over there? And so this shows a little bit more defined a bi-level building where you have the staff and visitor parking and a long bus loop that's parallel to North Road. So there's not a lot of stacking up issues there. I'm sorry, that's parent drop off. And then the buses come into in the yellow in the back there where student parking is as well. Where a playground would be, some proposed parking, some for baseball, athletic parking. So this really takes care of a lot of needs and fixes a lot of traffic issues that you might have. So this east site is property or concept plan is really what the task force was leaning towards moving forward with and proposed to the Board of Education. So brings us to present day, which really means that the participating with OFCC and as a lapsed EMP project gives you the highest priority for state funding. By the policy of the program, it needs to be new construction. It needs to take care of a full grade configuration. So the school board agreed with OFCC with the master plan, and in November of 2021, the master plan was locked in for a 13-month period. It gives the district time to secure funds for their local share. That master plan is a 91,000 square foot building for 474 students, $38 million. And that master plan, since it's locked in for 13 months, plan expires in December of 2022 if there is no local share raised for it. The scope of the master plan, as I mentioned, is a new K-12. It includes the abatement and demolition of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. We do know that there's a chance and talk to keep the middle school for athletic competition gym, and that's fine. It's just that this master plan budget includes that scope should some other discussions take it a different route. It includes site work and grading and filling. It includes utilities and connections and diverting the culvert that's there. It has additional site improvements, all the paving, the fencing, the drive. It also includes contingency for scope and inflation. So it's really an all-in price of $38.2 million. And as I mentioned, it has that $11 million of locally funded initiatives for that site work and grading. Also, that additional square footage for added to the building to get the district the programs that you want to educate your students with. And again, that contingency in inflation. And so the state is contributing $8.1 million and the district has a local share of $30.1 million. Within the program of requirements, as I mentioned, the task force went through with the administrative staff and the principals of the buildings to identify the need. So there's a spreadsheet really of what is required in the building, academic or special ed, administrative, visual arts, all of that's, we talked through two different long meetings. We talked through those. But this preliminary design includes 23 academic classrooms, not including your specials like music and art, 10,000 square foot competition gym, a life skills lab, the ag ed lab, that's going to be a high base space for your career tech needs, 2 art rooms, the industrial tech classroom, a music room, the business computer lab. So all of these spaces that the district said that they need to have, it's going to fulfill those needs. So that's on paper. What does it look like in real life? And Doug's going to talk a little bit about what a new facility looks like.
All right, thanks, Monica. Yeah, the following slides will just walk you through some modern learning environments. First, we'll start with a classroom. You can see the windows on the left and the right. The tables are on wheels, chairs are easy to move. You know, in working with students and teachers, the feedback is it needs to be flexible and functional, and that's what this classroom is here. The functionality for this STEM space is really cool. You could see the writable walls there on the left, the robotics tables, and then the garage door that opens up so you can close off that lab space or open it up to a larger classroom setting. Here's an example in the elementary school where the media center is connected right to a multi-purpose dining area, complete with a stage, and the curtains open up to a gym on the other side. So you have a gym, a stage, a dining area, and a media center all together. Here, if you could replace that yellow with orange, it would look good in Lucas. It's just an example of a modern competition gym. And then the outdoor learning areas are really key in curriculum for school districts across the state. And this is an example of an elementary school where the teacher can educate the students right there outside, just to give them, you know, a different environment. And now David will take a deeper dive into the finances.
Great. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I want to go back and recap for the audience the total cost of the project based on what Monica mentioned earlier. So the project is described in the presentation. It has a total cost of $38,282,000. That will allow for funding for our locally funded initiatives, site works and utilities, et cetera. The state will be providing a grant for almost $8.2 million. And the clarification here is that the grant is only paid to the school district if the school district raises its local share of $30,125,000. That's the amount of money that is currently on the ballot, and that in November, voters of the district will have a chance to vote on. So let's go to the next slide and take a look at how bond issues impact residents of the community as taxpayers. Some people are aware, but many aren't, that there are a number of different types of taxpayers in every school district. They stay the same from district to district, but the proportions of those taxpayers change. In general, however, this is a slide that shows you the types of taxpayers that make up any particular school district. Of course, we have farming community, homeowners, and landlords. One item I want to point out, there is some belief in the community that there's a lot of renter-occupied housing. Upon my research from the Census Bureau, it shows that there's only 12% of your residential property is actually renter-occupied. In addition to that, some communities have commercial businesses, industrial businesses, public utilities, railroad, and mineral property. On the next slide is a nice pie chart that really shows you, it drills down into who's paying taxes in the Lucas School District. Bond issues work in a way where every dollar that's collected in taxes to pay the bonds is shared among the taxpayers that are in the community. So the pie chart that you see on your screen shows you the breakdown of the dollar, if you will, that's being used to pay for the bond taxes. So in looking at the pie chart, 40.78% of, or in other words, 40 cents of a dollar would be paid from residential individual taxpayers. Agricultural taxpayers make up about 11% of the tax base. You have a very, very small commercial component and no industrial component. But the larger component of the entire tax base is your public utility tangible property. Public utility would be things such as natural gas, electricity, telephone, and so forth. One taxpayer in particular is one of the largest taxpayers in the entire school district, and that would be Columbia Gas. So when you look at the non-individual taxpayers at the bottom of the page, so when you think about taxes being paid by businesses versus paid by individuals, 48.39% of the taxes that would be used to pay this particular bond issue would actually be coming from businesses that are located in Lucas schools. And those businesses would again include public utilities. So there's a fairly large percentage of the tax burden being paid by someone other than an individual. On the next slide, I'd like to kind of break down how much it would cost based on property taxes for a typical homeowner. Using a bond amount of $30,125,000, a repayment term of 37 years. State law allows a school district to borrow for up to 40 years, but we are on the ballot for 37 years. Currently, the interest rate is estimated at 5%. That interest rate could vary between now and the time that bonds are actually sold, but we think 5% is fairly conservative. The property value of all property in the school district is currently estimated at $132 million. That would be the pie chart on the previous page. All value added together for the entire district would be $132 million that would be subject to the property tax. And using those variables, the county auditor's office of Richland County has certified to the school board that it would take about 12 mills per year to repay a bond issue of $30,125,000. Again, these are all estimates based on our best guess as things are today. Using 12 mills, a home that has a market value of $100,000 would have a tax of about $35 per month or $1.15 a day. I recommend that anyone that wants to get details about their particular property and what the taxes would cost you to contact the county auditor's office to get that information. I will now turn it back over to the superintendent, Mr. Brad Herman, for the conclusion.
Okay, thank you, David. Again, we thank you for joining us here to learn a little bit more about the upcoming bond issue. We hope you found our information to be useful and helpful. If you have any further questions, we suggest that you contact our district office, or if you would please check out our district website. We do have an Ask a Question link available, and you can find that under the News tab on our website. So if you click the News tab, you can go in there, click Ask a Question, and then we can get back to you with what your specific concerns or questions may be. Again, we thank you, and we wish you a good day.